Hey everyone. Have you ever noticed that when you're out shopping, especially in a place where you have to speak English, maybe you're traveling or something, do you ever feel like you can't find the right words to say? I don't know about you, but I have definitely been there. It can be super
Oh,
awkward.
absolutely. I think we've all been there at some point, that
Yeah.
feeling of like your mind goes blank, you just can't remember the simplest phrases.
Exactly, and it's like the more you panic, the worse it gets.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like stage fright, but in a shop.
I know, right? So today we're going to tackle this head on. We're doing a deep dive into Shopping Dialogues English language podcast script. It's a resource specifically designed to help English language learners feel more confident in shopping situations.
And you know what I really appreciate about this source is that it goes beyond just providing vocabulary lists.
Yeah.
It actually puts those words and phrases into action.
Yeah, I noticed that too. They have this whole section dedicated to role playing, like a simulated conversation between a customer and a shop assistant.
It's brilliant because it gives you a chance to hear how these phrases sound in a natural context.
And they even suggest adding sound effects to make it even more immersive.
Oh, yeah, like the rustle of clothes or background chatter.
Yeah.
It's a great way to really get into the shopping mindset.
I love that idea. So before we jump into the role play itself, they start by laying out some key phrases, the essentials, like, how much is this?
Or do you have this in a different size or color?
Yes, exactly. Those are the phrases that you're almost guaranteed to need at some point during a shopping trip.
And what's so helpful about this source is that it explains not just what to say, but also why.
Like why certain phrases are more appropriate in certain situations.
Precisely. It delves into the cultural nuances of shopping interactions. Things like how phrasing a question politely can make all the difference.
That's so important because sometimes it's not just about knowing the words, it's about using the right tone and approach.
Exactly. It's about understanding the unspoken rules of communication.
I remember once I was trying to buy a scarf in Italy, and I totally butchered the phrase for, can I see a different color?
Oh, no.
The shop assistant looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language, which I guess I was.
We've all had those moments. It's part of the learning process.
But that's exactly why resources like this are so valuable. They give you the tools to avoid those awkward situations and feel more confident in your communication.
I couldn't agree more. It's about empowering yourself to navigate those interactions smoothly.
So speaking of smooth interactions, let's talk about this role-playing scenario they've set up in the source. It's like stepping into a real shopping experience.
Yeah, they paint this really vivid picture of a customer looking for the perfect summer dress.
And what I found really interesting was how they use pauses and subtle cues in the script to make it sound like a natural conversation.
Right, it's not just a back and forth exchange of words. It's like eavesdropping on a real interaction.
Like they have this one part where the script simply says, pause to represent the customer trying on the dress.
That's so clever. It gives you a moment to imagine yourself in that situation.
Hmm.
To visualize what it would feel like to be trying on clothes and interacting with the staff.
It's like a mental rehearsal.
Exactly. You're
Yeah.
practicing in your mind before you even step foot in a store.
And as the conversation unfolds, they highlight how the customer uses those key phrases we talked about earlier.
Right, from asking for assistance to inquiring about different sizes and colors. It's a step-by-step guide to navigating the interaction.
It's like they're holding your hand through the entire shopping journey.
And I think that's what makes this resource so effective. It breaks down a potentially intimidating experience into manageable steps.
So it's not just about learning words, it's about gaining confidence and feeling empowered to communicate.
Absolutely. It's about taking control of those interactions and making them work for you.
I'm already feeling more prepared for my next shopping adventure. How about you?
Oh, definitely. I'm ready to hit the shops with my newfound linguistic skills.
All right, let's do it. But first, let's dive into that role-playing scenario and see how it all comes together.
Sounds good. I'm ready when you are. Okay, so we've talked about some of the essential phrases for shopping in English, and we've kind of touched on how those phrases might fit into a real conversation. But now it's time to get really practical and put those phrases to the test.
That's right. It's time for that interactive challenge that the source material mentions. Remember that.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
So the source gives us 3 specific shopping scenarios, and they challenge the listener to pause the podcast and try to actually come up with the dialogue themselves.
I love that because it forces you to really think about those phrases we've discussed and how you'd actually use them in a real situation.
Totally. It's one thing to passively listen and absorb information, but it's a whole other level of learning when you actually have to produce the language yourself.
It's like the difference between reading about how to ride a bike and actually getting on a bike and trying to ride it.
I like that analogy. So
Yeah.
what are these three scenarios that the source throws at us?
Okay, so the first one is buying a pair of shoes. You walk into a shoe store, you need to find your size, maybe try on a few different styles, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic shopping scenario for sure.
The second one is finding the perfect winter coat.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting cold outside. You need something warm and stylish. So you head to a department store to see what they have.
Okay, I can definitely relate to that one, especially living in a place where the winters are brutal.
And the third scenario is searching for a gift for a friend.
Ooh, that's a good one because it adds another layer of complexity. You have to think about the other person's tastes and preferences.
Exactly. And you might need to ask for help from a sales assistant to find just the right thing.
This is great. I love how they've chosen such relatable, everyday situations.
It makes the challenge feel so much more relevant and engaging, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
So let's say I'm the listener and I've decided to tackle the first scenario, buying a pair of shoes. I'm standing in the shoe store. What are some of the first things I might need to say?
Well, first, I'd probably just greet the staff with a simple hello or good afternoon, just to acknowledge them and show that you're ready to interact.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like breaking the ice.
Then once you've made eye contact, maybe you could say something like, "Excuse me, could you tell me where I can find the women's boots?" Or, whatever type of shoe you're looking for.
Uh-huh. So we're using that "could you tell me" phrasing that we talked about earlier.
Exactly. It's just a little more polite and indirect than saying something like, "Where are the women's boots?"
Right. It softens the request.
And being specific about what you're looking for, women's boots instead of just shoes in general, can help the staff assist you more efficiently.
That's a good point. Okay, so let's say they've directed me to the right section, and now I'm browsing. I see a pair of boots that I really like. What should I do next?
Well, if you want to try them on,
What?
you could just politely get the attention of a sales assistant and say something like, "Excuse me, would it be possible to try these on?"
I like that. Would it be possible? It sounds very polite and respectful.
And it's a good way to make a request without sounding too demanding.
So what if I try on the boots and they don't fit quite right?
No problem. You can just explain the situation to the sales assistant. For example, you could say, "These are a little too tight. Do you have a size up?" Or, "These are a bit loose. Would you have a half size down?"
Oh, those are perfect. That's exactly the kind of situation where I would have struggled to find the right words in the past.
But now you've got those phrases in your toolkit.
I do.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling much more confident already.
And remember, you can always adapt those phrases to fit different situations. Like if the boots are the wrong color, you could say, "Do you have these in black?" Or, "Do you have something similar in a different color?"
Oh, I see. It's like a formula that you can tweak depending on your needs.
Precisely. It's about understanding the basic structure of the phrase and then being able to plug in different words to make it your own.
This is so helpful. It's like we're building a whole conversational framework.
And the more you practice using these phrases, the more natural and automatic they'll become.
I'm excited to try it out in real life.
Me too. It's time to put our newfound shopping skills to the test.
You know what I'm thinking about all the times I've traveled and felt so tongue-tied when I was trying to buy something? I wish I had had this deep dive back then.
Oh, tell me about it.
Ugh.
It's amazing how just a few key phrases can make such a huge difference in your confidence.
It's like you said earlier, it's not just about knowing the words, it's about knowing how to use them in a way that feels natural and appropriate.
Exactly. And that's what we've been focusing on today.
Yeah.
Taking those essential phrases and seeing how they fit into different shopping scenarios.
And I think we've made some really good progress. We've tackled buying shoes, we've talked about finding a winter coat, and we've even explored the art of gift giving.
It's like we've unlocked a whole new level of communication.
I feel like I could walk into any shop now and hold my own in a conversation.
That's the goal, to give you the tools and the confidence to navigate those interactions smoothly.
And the best part is these skills aren't limited to shopping. We can use these phrases in all sorts of situations.
Absolutely. Whether you're ordering food at a restaurant, asking for directions, or just chatting with someone new, these communication skills are essential.
It's all about connecting with people and feeling comfortable expressing yourself.
It's funny, I was just thinking about a quote by Nelson Mandela. He said, "If you talk to a man in a language, he understands that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart."
Wow, that's beautiful. And so true language has the power to bridge cultures and create genuine connections.
It's like a key that unlocks understanding and empathy.
I love that analogy. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge.
Ooh, I like challenges. What is it?
Think about those everyday situations where you might feel a little hesitant or unsure of your English skills. What scenarios would you like to explore?
That's a great question.
Hmm.
Maybe it's ordering coffee at a busy cafe, or maybe it's asking for help at a train station.
Whatever it is, I encourage you to embrace those challenges and use this deep dive as inspiration.
Remember, the tools and strategies we've discussed today can be applied to so many different situations.
So keep practicing, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself.
You got this.
Until next time, happy learning.